Welcome to the Fort Worth Portrait Project's vlog. I'm Anthony Mosley, the Sioux pastry chef here at the Fort Worth Portrait Project, and it is December 26, 2017, day after Christmas, on an overcast and continually cooling day here in North Texas. Temperatures are in the 40s now, expected to drop into the mid-30s as the day wears on. I just dropped somebody off at Terminal D, the international terminal. Somebody who's heading over to China, to Shanghai, a TCU student. One of the very few carbon-based life forms still left on campus. But the deal is, when I come into the south entrance and I drop somebody off really fast and then head back to the toll booths, if I get back to the toll booth in less than 9 minutes, or it might be 8, then I get charged $2 extra. So Uber reimburses me the $2 standard toll to go in and out of the airport. But the airport charges $4 if you come in and basically just fly through the airport as a shortcut to get around traffic in other parts. So most of the time it's not an issue, but I just looked at my ticket and saw that I was heading toward the toll exits and it had only been 6 minutes. So figured, let's just do a tour of Terminal E. And so that's where I'm at, on the lower floor of Terminal E. The morning started by taking a ride to Love Field. So it is 8:20 in the morning, and I've already been to both Love Field and now DFW. The first ride, I wasn't really sure that was going to happen because I got to bed about 1:30, and my alarm went off around 4:20. And I had already told myself, look, just sleep in. 3 hours is just not sufficient. But I went ahead and started rolling anyway. So headed out to the car, and sometimes I just wait for a ride at my apartment. But this time, headed out to the car because I knew there was somebody out there who would be heading to the airport early to head back home after visiting here for Christmas. So I went over to the TCU area, hoping to draw a ride from some of the surrounding neighborhoods, and nothing much was happening there. So I went into the Tanglewood neighborhood, actually Overton West, and headed south. Just wound my way through a whole bunch of neighborhoods until finally it came out on Hewlin, and I realized how far south I was. Then at that point I was just a little bit north of the Hewlin Mall. So I was going to turn right and head back into the TCU area again, just to wait things out. But I got a request, and it was a little further south on Hewlin still, which is great for me because it translated into a longer ride. And in this case, it was the ride to Dallas Love Field. So, good morning so far. I'm glad that I was able to get out of bed and get a head start on at least earning more than half of what I hope to earn already by this time in the morning. You just never know. This day could be a really good day as far as making runs to the airport. Or, as is often the case, traffic for me just shuts down. The demand isn't there really throughout the rest of the day. And there are some days, not very often, but some days where I'll only pull in $30 or $40. It just seems that nobody's heading to the airport and not much is happening in terms of movement in town. So anyway, heading back towards the south entrance. And maybe I'll show a picture, if a picture pops up on the screen here, of the Emirates, I believe it's a 777, Boeing 777, going across the overpass as I was coming into the airport. They used to fly the A380 in here, but now Qantas has the only A380 game at DFW at present, and that used to be the longest flight from, well, anywhere, the longest commercial flight in the world. It's now number 3. I forget who the other 2 are at present. But the A380 is the one plane that I hear most every night fly over in Fort Worth. It's got a very distinctive, low, bass-like rumbling engine noise. And in fact, I recorded a little bit of that on my balcony just the other night. So if I remember, I'll go ahead and play that little audio clip right now of the A380 flying over Fort Worth as I head to the toll booths here. The cool thing is, you can see the red tail on that plane and the white kangaroo, and it's still lit up as it passes over TCU, but just as it goes about across University or maybe Hewlin, they turn out the lights and it goes dark for the rest of the trip over to Australia. Well, I went into Tom Thumb here on Hewlin to look for some popcorn and to take a break from driving all morning, since I've been out for about 5 hours now. They did not have bagged popcorn, just a cheap popcorn in a bag. Everything was in a plastic jar type thing. But I did find in the clearance section of the books, which I'm always a sucker for $4.99, The Man Who Invented Rock and Roll. Sam Phillips, How One Man Invented Howling Wolf, Ike Turner, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, and Elvis Presley. And how his teeny label Sun Records of Memphis revolutionized the world. So this just looked like a necessity to me. One of these days, I'm going to share about my timeline that I have developed, that I'm using to chronicle all the stuff that I'm learning in history. So everything about art, music, of course, historical developments, philosophical movements, etc. Get cataloged in there so I can look across the dates and see things that connect. I'm looking to make connections that way. And yeah, I know bookstores have these charts, these books with all these charts that fold out and wall posters and stuff like that. Problem with that is I'll look at that and I won't remember it. But if I create it myself, that I will remember. So anyway, I'll probably put some key dates of some of the musical developments that have happened over the years in that timeline. All right, that's all from now from the parking lot of Tom Thumb on Hewlin. Woohoo! All right, it is 3:23 here on Tuesday afternoon out on 820, southwest part of Fort Worth. Driving through the rain and fog. Just dropped somebody off who lived in my apartment complex and purchased a new vehicle. So I needed to go back to the dealership and pick up the old vehicle, or second vehicle, I guess I should say. But somewhere along the way back, I was thinking through the songs that I'm adding to one of my musical playlists on Google Play, and came across a group this morning called the Imperials. I'd forgotten about them completely, but when I started listening to some of their music, I recognized song after song after song from when I was growing up as a junior high student in Central Florida. And I don't know, I just got to thinking about stuff along the lines of religion, and combined with some other thoughts that I've had recently and other things that I'm reading, including that book about the history of music in Memphis. I started wondering about what it would be like to have a group of exceptionally talented people, and let's just say pretty much from Hollywood, George Lucas's, who could create comprehensive universes with all the details and backstories and a future direction and descriptions of all these different characters, descriptions of the good, descriptions of the bad in terms of, the force and the rebellion, etc., all that stuff. If you took all of those people and then you took some of the best story writers in terms of generating prose, songwriters in terms of generating lyrics, you took some of the best sociologists, you took some of the best psychologists who understand crowds, who understand the individual psyche. Let's throw anthropologists in there. Let's throw architects in there. All right, let's take all of these people and now give them the task of creating the world's next great religion. So, what would that religion look like? Now, would it actually get off the ground? I don't think it would, probably because you don't have the tradition that Islam and Christianity and Judaism can claim as part of their heritage. But it would be fascinating to see how close that group of talented people could come in terms of developing a brand new type of religion, a meta-narrative that really explains everything from start to finish, a meta-narrative that gives purpose to life, that provides some sense of a basis for ethics, to see how close they could come to actually pulling that off. We certainly have changed as a culture, especially with the Industrial Revolution in the 1850s all the way through to the amazing technological innovations that we see in terms of artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and all that stuff these days. We live in a vastly different world than the world in which, at least the three big religions were formulated thousands of years ago. So it would be fascinating to see if a new, and I'm not saying they should do this, but it'd be fascinating to see if a new religion could be manufactured from scratch that would have appeal to today's sensibilities. And when I say today's sensibilities, I don't mean just isolated to one particular culture, but globally. Is that even possible? And I don't know that it is. Maybe I should attempt this. Not. And if I did attempt it, which I will not do, wouldn't that make a fascinating Netflix documentary to pull a diverse group of people in, and especially to have focus groups? What is your source of inscripturated revelation going to look like? Is it going to be a Bible? Is it going to be a Quran? Is it going to even be a book? Or are we going to transition over to some form of progressive revelation where God is continuing to reveal himself, but maybe he does it through tweets or through text messages? A God who hasn't just spoken 2,000 years ago, but a God who is continuing to roll out his plan and who has opinions about everything from the Paris Accords to the U.S. elections to, whatever. Anyway, one of the goofy thoughts I have as I drive around town Ubering, and so that's my reflective contribution to the world of religion and sociology here on this rainy, foggy Tuesday afternoon, where I'm hoping that somebody still wants to head to the airport today to round out my Uber work today. Bye.